without further ado, these folks probably don't need any introduction, but just in case there's someone who doesn't know them, we have Nancy Watt, our Napa County CEO. We have Jim McCann, Calistoga City Manager, and John Glaser, Superintendent of the Napa Valley Unified School District. And I don't know what order you're going to do your thing.
We're going to be extemporaneous and give a few closing thoughts quickly. I also, by the way, want to be a member of Fred Silva's Friends of the General Fund Committee. I thought that was a great idea. Yeah, it's great. You know, and it does tie in, we joke, but it's my reflections on today is sort of a dichotomy, if you will, of, you know, let's go be rebels and really change things, and then I quickly think, you know, let's sort of hunker down and make sure Napa's taken care of, because I do think we do a pretty good job in Napa County working together. So a lot of kind of contradictory and complex thoughts going on today, but our job really is in a few minutes to summarize what we see as some of the next steps. And although there's one microphone, we were going to just kind of jump in and go. Is that one working? No. One quick one is the CCS partnership. Schools, cities, and counties did put together a draft resolution or a recommended resolution that really hits on the 9 principles that we all talked about today. I think that's kind of a concrete step that we can consider taking back to our respective governing boards, ask people to talk about it, make changes, make it your own, and then adopt it. In some ways, I think today's kind of preaching to the choir, because we all get this message, and I think the real challenge in terms of next steps is convincing others how important really bringing back local control is. Chris McKenzie's little vignette about sitting next to the surgeon on the plane, I thought was an important one, because I think it really does reflect what we all need to do moving forward.
And I would agree with that, and I wrote down amen on my notes earlier, because as I was listening to folks speak, I just thought to myself, absolutely, that's correct. I guess first I'd like to back up, and I'd like to thank Diane for putting this together, and for all of the folks who came and who spoke. For me, it was very inspiring, maybe is too far, but certainly a call to action. You know, this stuff is really important. It's the thing that we deal with all the time, how to deal with providing service when the rules change and when our legs are knocked out from under us. And as I was preparing for this, I just thought, you know, how can we possibly change that? It seems so overwhelming and just impossible. But when you start listening to folks and you start looking at some of the ideas that are out there, it becomes very, very simple. And so I think what it is to get that word about the simplicity out to the general public. In this room, I think most of us know each other, and we are, in fact, you know, the converted already. We need to get that word out, though, to the other folks who I think in our own county will be inclined to be converted, but they need to understand the facts, the very simple facts. We need to make this clear, and we need to keep the message not on the sort of the evils of the state, but on just the reality of where we are and the fact that there are solutions to this, so that we can make sense out of what is a very difficult situation. I think that is going to take meetings like this, not just here, not just among us, but out in our own communities, so people understand it, so that they then can become converted as well, and bring that message to their neighbors and so on, so that when this very complicated thing ends up on the ballot, people are confident that a vote will actually make a difference and that they'll have a voice in that. So.
I think it's fair to say that the Napa Valley Unified School District will be doing something in this regard, given that 6 of 7 NVUSD board members are here today. I think it's fair to say that there's a pretty keen interest in it, and it shouldn't be surprising. Our board has had to make some very painful decisions in the past year, culminating just a few days ago with some school closures, layoffs last spring. We're looking at up to 40 more teacher layoffs, not to mention classified layoffs this spring. And I think to some extent, we're victims of our own success. And I say, not just looking at us, I think all of us are victims of our own success, and I'm not proposing we change that. We're living through an amazing economic crisis, and we're being squeezed and shrunken in so many different ways, and yet the taxpayers are getting some pretty amazing services. And so we saw the results of that a little bit in some parcel tax polling that we did before the holidays, where from 3 years ago when we polled for our Measure G, we actually improved 6 or 7 percentage points in the public's confidence in our ability to deliver quality instruction, and yet we're going down a little bit in their confidence in our ability to manage resources wisely. So I think I mention that because I think one of the things we need to do collectively is not just rally around these principles, but I think we need to be doing some major PR and communications together to help get the message out of what we're trying to do, what we've already done collectively. And I know, just speaking for Napa Valley Unified, our partnership with our local jurisdictions, as well as the County Office of Education, as well as Napa County, has been incredible and very, very supportive of those efforts to deliver great services. So I think a piece of what we do, besides figuring out how we want to organize ourselves around these various principles, is also figure out how we're going to work together to get the message out and really help people understand. I love living in Napa County. I love living in Northern California, and quite honestly, I actually love living in the state of California. It's a great place to live despite the dysfunction we've been talking about all day long. So I'm looking forward to rolling up my sleeves, both professionally and continuing that personally, to figure out how we're going to work together on this thing and to make this thing look very, very different in the future.
I think that's a very good point. We were talking about two things. One, how dysfunctional the state is, and two, how well local government works. And I want to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, including the state. I don't think that they're all bad people. I don't think that they're all have evil intentions. I think that today the rules, the Constitution, and all of the complications just cause certain behavior. And I don't blame them entirely for solving their problems by saying, oh, there's a drawer over there, or there's a lever over there that I can pull, and I suddenly get some money that I otherwise didn't have. Well, it happens to come from my pocket, so that makes me unhappy. But I think there's some wonderful examples of how government does work, and that's here in Yountville, it's here in Napa Valley, and it's elsewhere in the Bay Area and elsewhere in the state. I think that's what the voters know, but I think that they need to be reminded that government does work. And government works when it's responsive and when it's responsible and when it's nimble and when it's flexible. And that's what we do in local government, school districts, special districts, all the time. The state isn't able to do that any longer. The state ought to be our partner as they were in the past, as opposed to the adversarial role that I think we always see them in. And I think these ideas, there's many, many good ones, I think can lead toward that. The change can lead back toward a government, a state government that will be our partner, will have a confined, clear responsibility that I think we can partner with. And I think if we can demonstrate that and get that out and articulate what we do and what we experience locally through our joint powers authorities and all of the cooperative efforts that we have, I think that gives the general populace the confidence that, you know what, government may not work real well back in Washington or in Sacramento, but in my town it does. And if we can move forward with these things through these explanations, I think that's a great tool and a great example for folks.
All right. Now is the time for public comment. Remember, this is an official meeting. Now's the time that any member of the public may address us on any matter that is not, we could all say this in unison, that is not on our agenda. Is there any member of the public here who wishes to address us? Seeing none, I'll ask all of you, are there any questions that any of you have before we depart? Well, we all have become better acquainted with each other, and I hope can rely on each other. And in closing, the big thank you I'd like to give is to all of you for participating. I hope this day was a productive one for you, that you learned as much as I felt I did, and have a good takeaway. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you for coming.